Hello and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining for our webinar today on the topic of data to decision, paths to data-driven transformation, brought to you by Locus Enterprise Solutions in association with Snowflake. My name is Khushbu Soni, your host for the session today. A few announcements before we start the session. We aim to complete this webinar in 45 minutes. Please stay tuned with us. Please feel free to ask questions in the Q&A window during the course of the presentation, and your questions will be addressed at the end of the webinar by the speakers. This is an exclusive webinar, and I'm happy to host our eminent speakers from Locus Enterprise Solutions, Snowflake, and we also have a customer speaker today, Mr. Smitesh Shah from Ambit Finvest Private Limited. To share the agenda of our session today, we have the first speaker, Mr. Saurabh Mittal from Locus Enterprise Solutions. He is the Chief Customer Success Officer. Saurabh comes with 15 plus years of experience working with Fortune 500 clients and solving their business problems. Saurabh's mission is to unlock value for his customers and also ensure customer empathy and hassle-free engagement. He's worked for over years and helped many customers in their digital transformation journey with cloud-first, data-driven, and baked-in approach to security. Welcome, Saurabh.
Thank you, Khushbu.
Our next speaker for today is Murad Wag, the Director Sales Engineering at Snowflake. Murad is currently leading a team of talented sales engineers responsible for pre-sales functions at Snowflake India. He comes with wealth of experience and skill sets around data center automation, virtualization, and cloud technologies. He has cross-management, domain architecture, and team management expertise as well. Murad, welcome. It's a pleasure to have you. Our customer speaker for today is Mr. Smitesh Shah, the Executive Vice President and Head of Business Technology and Transformation from Ambit Finvest Private Limited. Mr. Smitesh has rich experience of more than 27 years delivering creative, client-centric tools with value-driven solution. He is an innovative career technologist. Mr. Smitesh has proven leadership experience ranging from evaluating technology to discover niche products for banking and financial industry domain. Mr. Smitesh has hands-on experience with transforming business, driving with technology to sustain profitable growth. Sir, it's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thanks a lot.
Smitesh, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Over to you, Saurabh, to begin our first presentation.
Thank you, Khushbu. Thanks for teeing us off. Let me get to my slides. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, warm welcome. And thank you so much for spending some time this afternoon with us. Again, I know we all have starting to develop the fatigue of webinars and virtual meetings. So and the fact that you chose to spend some time and come to this forum, share your ideas, hopefully listen to a few new ideas, says a lot about it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As we jump in, again, Khushbu set the context, but let me quickly paint a picture of, so I'm joining all of you guys from Chicago. I'll run the US business for Locus. I've been with the company for a short while now. Historically, I have been working with Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies, specifically focusing on the digital transformation journeys. We have always focused on customer experience, thinking about and putting the customer's hat. So customer has always been my priority. So I'm going to bring some of that flavor today. So hopefully we'll share some new and some fresh perspective in the course of next 45 minutes. So a couple of things I'm going to take you through, right? As we go through or come out of the pandemic, fingers crossed, I'm going to walk you through about 6 slides in 6 to 7 minutes. We'll talk about some of the forces which are shaping the consumer of today, right? So we'll talk about that. What's changing in the market? What should brands be looking at? That lays the foundation for why data is more important or the most important asset today than ever before. And then I'll talk about in a couple of slides, talk about what are the challenges. While everybody understands the data is critical, what are the challenges companies are facing today, right? And then I'm very, very happy and pleased to have our partners at Snowflake join us and talk about, how they are, disrupting the entire industry using their product. And then one of our close partners, Mitesh is on the call. So we'll like to learn from his experience also. So with that, let me kick off, take you through some examples. We're not going to get you through very boring slides. We'll go through some visuals and, if you guys relate to it, keep the chat coming, share your point of view in the chat, right? So first things first, as we've gone through the pandemic, you've seen that, companies have come out with new experiences. That was a necessity that was also sort of forced on us. We couldn't go out, right? But companies have stepped up. As you've seen, even within United States, about 15 to 20% of the users were the first time buyers or orders of grocery delivery at home, right? And they've been super happy. Look at the online education space in India, right? Byju's today has over 80 million, users of it. Has that industry not been disrupted? Yes, of course. Now, once we open up fully, as we are in the process of, people would go back to universities and colleges, but the industry has been disrupted. The point is, when we build delightful new experiences, they can change some of the beliefs we have been holding for a while, right? They do make a change, happen in our mind, and it makes it repeatable, right? Look at the fitness industry, for example, right? In fact, companies like Apple are heavily investing in the fitness space because they realize that, the future is where you could be in your living room and, working out of there over your bike and, with a trainer and there you go, so that's where the future is headed. Another example, right? Very recently, as people couldn't really throw parties, as they graduate and they go, out of the college and things like that, brands started realizing that, now is the best time to connect with people at their emotional level, right? To get that engagement because people aren't really coming to the stores and, that dried out. So something like Krispy Kreme, a brand very popular in the donut space and, extremely, extremely popular in the young population, they started giving out these offers saying, hey, we understand how important it is as you come out of your graduation. So here are some donuts for you, right? Again, this got a significant move in the market. They were trending on Twitter. They were very, very popular within their customer base. The point is, do we know where our customers are? What is important to them? What is key to them, right? And can we connect those dots? Another example from our Indian space, brands are very smartly looking at. See, in the pandemic phase, there were no new movies being made. People were looking at entertainment, and especially the OTT platforms. They came through. They made some of the rich, fresh content, and then there were these smart brands like An Academy and bunch of those who actually figured that that is where the young audience is. That's where they spend their time. That's what they like to see today, right? And they place their ads on those shows. Now that's also a coincidence that this show ended up becoming one of the most watched OTT show in India. But the point what I'm trying to drive is, you have to look at those moments, those intersections where that customer experience and there is that emotional connection with your customer base, right? Digital adoption has been at scale. Now, we would just talk about millennials, we would talk about the young generation, but what has happened in the last 1.5 to 2 years is that the adoption has gone at scale, right? Even within the United States and globally, the level of users, and if you do an analysis of them, a lot of senior population has been adopting digital because they're realizing that's how things are going to be for a while, right? And that's the new normal. Similarly, for the millennials, it's become a situation where they could work from anywhere. And I'm sure all of you realize and see that in the market, right? People are happy to work out of a tier 3 city, sitting by the beach, and one of the brands I've really admired, they've built a small space for themselves called Zostel, right? They've been offering work from anywhere, working out of a tea estate garden with a solid internet connection, so that's a new trend that's come in, and that's going to stay, right? Now, this will also throw challenges to brands who say, everybody has to be in one place in this city. And this will also be an opportunity for brands who will say, hey, I can tap talent across India, across the globe, right? So that's another very interesting thing which has been happening. Finally, when we look at e-commerce has been growing like there's no tomorrow, right? The penetration even within the Indian market has been crazy. It's gone up significantly high. But then the other interesting portion which has also been happening is customers, while they are buying online, they're also looking for value buys, right? The unnecessary splurge took a backseat. And there are brands which have realized it, right? They've analyzed the data, they've figured out that people are not just buying anything, they're looking for value buys. Those are the companies who've innovated on the value space and created products around it, and they have gotten the better share of the customer's pocket, right? Again, this not pandemic or no pandemic, that's been the truth of our industry. Some of the best digital experiences which we have, right, they become our expectation. Everybody, again, this is highly cliched, but Amazon and its Prime services, right? Your viewing experiences over Netflix or even YouTube, right? How it tells you what you should be watching next and connects to your taste, and how they do it. Uber completely disrupted the way we move around the transportation industry. That's the reality. So you are not just competing with a direct competitor of your own, right? You also have to compete with companies which are setting those new user experiences, those new digital experiences for your customers, because they're going to expect the same from you, right? So in the end, right, when we look at some of these examples, what are the underlying factors which are enabling brands, right? Apart from having customer empathy, having common sense in how do we treat our customers, I think the number one factor is data, because data is the one which tells you, you get insights out of it. It takes you to enlightenment. You can figure out, what needs to happen, and then you can take action based on that, right? Now, with those examples, right, I also started by saying that, it makes sense, everybody knows this, but why are some of the organizations, struggle with it? Let me quickly talk about a couple of examples, and hopefully you guys will relate to it. And this will connect back to the point of a data decision journey, right? Here is a typical flow of a data engineering practice, right? Within any organization, how you go from data engineering to data science, how you implement and integrate with the end use cases, which I'm showing here, depending on which vertical and which industry you come from, these use cases could be different. You typically start by ingesting data, right? You have a bunch of sources. It could be your Oracle databases, IBM databases, DB2s, or it could be the streaming data from web, right? Or your call center data. You ingest all of this data. Once you ingest, you do all the magic on it, which is your standardization, cleansing, and encryption of the data. Make sure that's ready. From here, either your BI consumes the data, or your machine learning pipeline, or your pipeline from the data science team that takes over. And then you go the entire journey like this, right? Now, data science team is again looking to build some of the hypotheses prove those hypotheses, test them out. And once they can prove it, they would like to run that again in the production data with the real-time outcome basis, right? Now, here is the problem. Typically, what ends up happening, right? And if I take an example, let's contextualize it. Let's take an example that you want to build a use case to find out who are the customers who have the highest propensity to churn, right? Who are going to leave my business, who are not going to be using my service, right? You're building a model for that. Now, what ends up realistically happening is that, this becomes an engineering marvel in itself, right? A lot of organizations I've seen, they start perfecting this portion, which is the engineering portion, right? They want to perfect the data cleansing, they want to perfect the standardization, right? Similarly, there are a lot of companies that start ingesting a lot of data. They say, hey, let's bring every data element and data point into a data lake, right? So eventually, you start with a use case and an ROI to prove, but now your investment of time and dollars, that's now starting to go much beyond the established ROI, right? That is the biggest problem which you end up seeing, right? So if you lead a data engineering team, they are going all happy about, hey, we've built a great pipeline, we can ingest all of the data, my batches run, my real-time pipeline, but that's not the goal. That's not why you do some of these programs. The data scientists, they're happy that, hey, we're getting the right data, we've been able to build models, but again, that's not the goal as well, right? The goal is for you to go from point A to Z, which is you should be able to go end-to-end ingestion, building models, and using the outcome of those models for your business, right? For example, if a customer is going to churn, once I ingest all the data about this customer and related parameters, and my model tells me, hey, Saurabh is at a higher propensity of churning, can I talk to Saurabh when he gives me a phone call, and my call center agent talk to him in a way which will help retain Saurabh? Hey, Saurabh, we understand you're having a bad experience. Your network keeps dropping. Here is a voucher for you to shift over to a different platform, right? Or a different carrier. So can I do that and see what happens if Saurabh takes my voucher? Can I build that feedback loop in my data? That is the ROI. That is the goal you're looking at, right? That's where most of the companies struggle. So hopefully that kind of gives you an idea of the perspective we are driving with the customers when we talk, and that this is one of the reasons I'm super excited. At Locus, we're very, very happy and backing up the Snowflake implementation, the Snowflake product heavily, because, and again, I will not take the thunder away. I'll let Murad talk about it. But I think there is a significant need for shifting from trying to build an engineering marvel, from there to go to a place where you can build these pipelines quickly, try things very, very quickly, go from data to decision in a very quick way, right? Hopefully that makes sense and you guys can relate to it. Now, before I bring Murad in, I just want to do a quick introduction for, a minute or two, for all of you joining who haven't heard about Locus, right? We have been a 20-year old company. We've been building massive infrastructure, projects across India and globally. Some of the largest infrastructures clusters built in India have been built by Locus, right? We've been working with companies like Space Research Mission in India, right? And Chandrayaan, our CEO Uttam has been himself involved and very passionately talks about it. Globally, we've worked with some of the large telecom and communication companies building their complete infrastructure. We have a rich set of 600 people, especially focused on data and cloud, a bunch of IPs and accelerators. Again, a very diverse set of clients. We work with fintechs, we work with communication and telecom companies, We work especially with the manufacturing group. I've shared some of the logos from the US market also. Again, doing some of the things differently, focusing on a security-led digital transformation, right? While we feel data and cloud are the most important things, one of the differentiators has to be security, and understanding security, what comes naturally to Locus, right? So that's just a brief introduction about who we are. Happy to answer any questions on that, on the sidelines. Please contact us if you'd like to get some additional information. But again, without further ado, I'll stop here. I'd like to invite Murad, to talk to us through this journey, and tell us, how Snowflake is disrupting the space, how they are transforming the space. Thanks, Murad. Like to welcome you.
Thank you, Saurabh. That was awesome, very interesting. Let me just share my screen. Give me a moment. Can you confirm if you're able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. So like I said, amazing presentation. I love the graphics and I love that term exceptional customer experience. I think that is what we all yearn for. So once again, folks, my name is Murad Wagh. I lead the sales engineering team here at Snowflake. And over the next 15 minutes, I'm going to talk about, I'll actually pick up from where Saurabh left off, talking about how Snowflake can help your data journeys, right? We'll talk about what it delivers in terms of some of these exceptional experiences that we spoke about. I'll actually start off interestingly with a cliche, and I'm sure you've heard this so many times. Data is the new currency, data is oil, it is so powerful. We've heard this so often in so many seminars, so many events, right? In fact, in 1982, and you must read this if you have not done that, Robert Waterman actually came up with a book called In Search of Excellence. This is a fantastic management book that talks about what companies should do as they strive for excellence. And he made a very deep statement saying today companies are data rich and information poor. And imagine making this statement in 1982. Unfortunately, in March 2020, right, you see the statement saying that while the statement was made 35 years ago, little has changed. While you see all these articles on the left hand side saying data is power and all of that, companies still struggle to make this real. And a little more context in terms of why and where they're falling short. Today, one of the biggest challenges that we see when we talk to customers is that companies are falling short of realizing this potential of data because of proliferation of what we call data silos. And that is what you're seeing on the screen, right? And I'm sure you can relate to some of this as you start thinking about what happens in your organizations as well. And this is just compounded by the rise of what we call application clouds. So those of you who are using SaaS services like Salesforce, Workday, brilliant technologies, right? Takes away a lot of management work from you, helps you focus on the outcome. But then imagine it's another data silo. Similarly, infrastructure clouds, right? All the hyperscalers that are out there. Essentially, this drives up the amount of data that we need to drive our business. This just explodes from a data volume standpoint. But the problem is that now the data is compounded, it is spread across different silos and environments. And in addition to that, you already had data in silos, right? You had marketing data, you had sales data, you had data sitting in all of these different data sources, as I call it, because your organization grew organically, right? And that's been one of the pains. Now, the problem is that these silos are no longer contained within your organization. The four walls, the data center, right? It talks about incorporating third-party data. And in fact, if you look at that survey that Forrester did, 87% of decision makers today want to do more with third-party data. They want supplier data, they want data that talks about their customers. This is possibly data that does not exist within their organization, right? So these silos continue to get added. Mergers and acquisitions are another pain. While they are done for a reason, it means more data silos that build up together. And eventually all of this turns out to be expensive, time consuming, and what you're looking for is how do I extract value out of that data At the same time, having governance and collaboration literally makes it impossible across all of these different technologies and clouds. Thankfully, there is an answer to this, and that is what we call the data cloud. The promise is that you can actually eliminate all of these silos that you saw with the Snowflake data cloud. In very simple terms, if I am to define what the data cloud means, it is one global unified system that allows you to connect companies and data providers to the most relevant data that's available in your business. Wherever your data lives, wherever the users live, Snowflake allows you to connect all of these together and provide that seamless experience, regardless of where the data lives, right? It could be across multiple clouds, it could be across multiple application systems, thereby eliminating these silos that you saw on the previous slide. So in short, a Snowflake customer has got access to the data cloud simply by using the Snowflake platform. You log in there, you have access to all of the data. And we'll talk about that in subsequent slides as we move through, right? Some of the benefits of the data cloud, and I'll delve into each of these, but if you look at what does the data cloud deliver to me, three basic things, right? Access, governance, and action. In very simple terms, access means that today organizations have the ability to discover and share data without physically moving it. Imagine, I'm using these terms in the same statement. You can share data, but you don't need to physically move data. And we'll cover this in detail as we go on. Now, what's even more interesting is that you can not only do it within your own organization, but you can now share this data with your ecosystem, with your partners, with your suppliers, with your supply chain, that entire ecosystem, as well as third-party data. Next up, governance. It essentially means knowing and protecting your data in a way where you're comfortable unlocking the value of that data and sharing it for collaboration while maintaining the highest levels of security and compliance. Because when you talk about sharing, when you talk about exposing your data, the first thing that comes to mind is that the right thing to do? Am I compliant? Is this data governed? Right? So we'll talk about how we help you deliver governance on your data. And finally, there's action. Right? This is exactly what Saurabh was talking about. How do I get access to a possible customer that's going to churn and maybe churn away from my competition based on a Twitter feed? And how do I just pass on that coupon to get that person onto my platform, right? That's what action is all about. And how quickly can you go through this entire phase? So action is essentially empowering every part of your business with data that they need to build better products, to make faster decisions, build additional revenue streams, create new products, all of that, right? So we'll talk about access first. Like I said, access is making sure you've got access to all of the data that you need to run your business. Now, what does that mean technically? It means that you can now use Snowflake for any format of data at unlimited scale, and you can collaborate without actually moving data around. When I talk about any format, think about it, right? Data today is available in structured format, which is very traditional, can ingest that. Semi-structured data, a lot of applications, mobile apps use JSON and XML and those kind of formats. And then there's that vast open space of what we call unstructured data. PDF files, photographs, documents, all of that, right? Today, you have the ability to ingest all of that into the data cloud. That's technical. But what does that mean from a business lens? It means that now you can start having access literally to all of your organization's data and eliminate those silos that we were talking about. So no more data marts by departments, someone copying data, that data is not in sync, none of that, right? You get data into the cloud, the data cloud, and it's available to everyone. Now, beyond your four walls, imagine if you could do this and have instant access of data from your suppliers to drive supply chain efficiencies, or have access to partner data where you start thinking about what's our joint GTM going to be, right? Or even your customers to deliver exceptional experiences. Thinking about customer 360 kind of applications, what propensity do they have to buy my product, right? And some of this data I may not have. I may have to pull in data from the ecosystem or third party. And finally, the data cloud gives you access to what we call the Snowflake data marketplace, where there are over 100 companies that offer their data sets, either free or licensed, that allows you to consume that data without data changing hands and being copied over. Right, so that's the access part. Next, we'll talk about governance, and those of you with a security background will find this interesting. Governance is all about making sure that there are 3 pillars to govern your data, right? The first one is you need to know what's in the data. Where is that data stored? Who's accessing it? So start thinking about stuff like role-based access control, encryption, making sure it's all there and you know where your data is, right? Second is the tools to protect your data. So which means you're talking about controlling access to the data based on the user's context, the sensitivity of that data. You're talking about PII. Do I share PII information with my development team who's trying to create some special views for me? You can mask all of that, right? So that's about protecting your data. And finally, when you've done these two, then you're comfortable unlocking the full potential of this data and making it easier to share and collaborate in a secure and a governed manner. That is critical. And then finally, we talk about action. Once you have the right foundation of accessing all of the data and making sure it is governed, then your team is now armed to act faster, smarter. Today, we have our customers using Snowflake for core analytics use cases, dashboarding, running machine learning models from a data science standpoint, and we'll talk about that as we go through. They are also innovating to create entirely new data products based on this platform and create additional revenue streams that are delivered via the data cloud, especially the marketplace, right? So for a moment, just think about what you and your teams could do if you had access to a platform like this. And now I'll give you some examples of what some of our customers have done, right? Swiggy, I don't need to introduce the name, especially in the pandemic. It's been tough on all of us, right? I'm sure. And we've consumed a lot of these services from providers like Swiggy where they deliver stuff to us. But for a moment, just imagine, right? How does your food get to you? How does your meal get to you so quickly? And Swiggy adopted this platform and they came out in a public case study where they said that they could run 20% faster queries than their previous system. And also at the same time, they could reduce the query cost literally by 2x, right? Those are amazing outcomes, right? Similarly, car rentals is an Expedia group company in Seattle. They've got over 200 TB of data and they use Snowflake to predict pickup rates, right, of rental cars. They support ML-based bidding models for their car partners, right? And then they also use Snowflake data to automate email campaigns for marketing. Similarly, Outreach is a SaaS organization that deals with business development teams and making them successful. They optimize their sales motions for SDRs and business development teams. They enable their analysts to enrich their data, manage concurrencies, get in clickstream events from all their applications, and be far more predictable about customer churn. And this is what Saurabh and I were talking about, right? How can you use this data to predict customer churn? This is where data science comes in, right? So these are just some examples of how customers have been able to consume the Snowflake data platform. Moving on, thousands of more customers, right? And obviously this is a logo slide. You'll see these logo slides with a lot of technology partners, right? But what is interesting here is that these logos are virtually across every industry out there. Customers are turning to Snowflake as their preferred cloud data platform of choice to solve their data and analytics problems. And to date, thousands of enterprises, I think close to 5,000 odd customers, use Snowflake for a wide range of use cases. Now, what's even more interesting is that for Snowflake, each of those logos that you see on this slide is like a node on that data cloud. It's like a network connection, right? Think of it as different organizations having the ability to connect to each other on that data cloud and having the potential to share their data on the cloud, right? So what really makes this tick? What is this platform all about? So we'll get into a little bit of technology on this slide and we'll talk about the platform, what's really under the hood, right? So this is what the Snowflake platform looks like. It's a SaaS platform. You just get into consuming it, you sign up and you start consuming. On the left hand side, you see a bunch of data sources, right? From traditional OLTP databases to enterprise apps like Oracle, SQL Server, and so on, third-party data, web and log data, clickstream data, IoT data from sensors, healthcare, think all of those use cases, right? So the ability to get structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data from all of those sources and bring it into Snowflake, right? So think of your ELT, ETL kind of pipelines, get it inside Snowflake to execute on these use cases that you see on top. So we traditionally started off as a cloud data warehouse. We're still very good at it. We're proud of that lineage. We extended the use case to becoming a data lake with the volume and the velocity that is typically associated with a data lake. Data engineering has always been our strength to get data ingested and transformed into Snowflake. But what is finding active interest on the platform today is these use cases around data science and data sharing. Today, customers want their data science teams to access the data that's available inside Snowflake so that they can run models. They can be far better at forecast accuracy and prediction accuracy with their ML ops, right? And that is where data science works, use cases really come in. And then obviously there's data sharing. I'll talk about it a little more as we progress. From a data consumption standpoint, this is where you'll see some of the traditional use cases, right? Operational reporting, ad hoc analysis. This is what typically analytics teams would do, or you talk about machine learning, model training, and so on. But what is interesting is this use case around data monetization. A lot of customers are saying we are already on the Snowflake platform. We love that marketplace. How do you think we can start talking about monetizing the data that we already have? Can we securely, in a governed manner, share it on your marketplace so that other consumers can use it for a fee and we derive some revenue out of that, right? So that's how the platform works. Under the hood, if you look at it, very importantly, it's multi-cloud, which means this sits as an overlay on top of hyperscalers like AWS, Azure, and GCP. And it's a platform that works consistently across all of those hyperscaler clouds. And what really drives Snowflake is three pillars, right? One is what we call the Elastic Performance Engine. That's the compute. And it's a very sophisticated architecture. If you think of it, there is a separation between that intelligent infrastructure and the storage layer, as we call it, and the compute, which means you can independently scale storage and compute. This is not something that too many data companies have managed to do. And it's a big advantage because now you can have concurrent operations on the same copy of data. And you'll start relating to this when you think about data ingestion, significantly impacting data analytics queries because they all use the same compute to go in, right? Now we have separated compute from storage and compute from compute. So it gives you a lot more ability to scale out, be highly performant, and it's a pay-per-use model. So while your compute is switched on, that's what you pay, right? And there's a pay-per-second billing and so on. And there's a lot of automation that's built into the platform that allows you to focus on your data and your business rather than data operations itself. So stuff like indexing, data vacuuming, that's all taken care by the platform. You don't need to do anything. Just ingest the data. Literally in 10 seconds, you're ready to query all of that data. Right? That's how powerful the platform is. And then finally, the SnowGrid that allows you to connect all of the different Snowflake instances across the globe, not just within regions of a particular hyperscaler, but across all of these hyperscaler platforms. That is what truly makes it a multi-cloud product or technology. This is an interesting visual. This is something that our product teams created as a visual to depict what usage the data cloud has today. So today, thousands of organizations, like I said earlier, are sharing data with the business ecosystem using the data cloud. Now, each of those dots actually represents some of the logos that you saw earlier, right? As well as some of the data that is coming from relevant providers on our marketplace. On the top right over here, you can see an example of a software company that actually created an additional product offering, sharing data with hundreds of their customers using Snowflake. And again, I repeat, this data isn't leaving Snowflake account of that customer. They're just sharing it, and there are customers who come in and access that data. There's no copying, there's no question of sync, none of those problems, right? That big cluster over here, imagine how we helped customers be better at their business during the pandemic. This is an example of companies pulling in COVID-19 testing and vaccine data from the marketplace. And companies today are using this data to manage the regional impact of COVID-19. Do I really need to go to this territory? Do I open up a business over here? How do I forecast business recovery based on COVID numbers? Now, how do I get accurate data which is real time without me bothering about ETL ingestion and all the technicalities of it, right? Data cloud, that's your answer. Similarly, there's another example of a financial company providing data on the marketplace, and a lot of financial firms consuming that data without the need to create any pipelines, again thanks to the data cloud, right? So these are just some of the examples that you can start thinking about. This is what we call the art of possible, right? What can I do with all of this data if it is offered to me? Classic example of how do we share and collaborate in the cloud? I briefly spoke about the marketplace. Bunch of providers that provide very interesting data around various categories, right? Financial data, demographical data, weather data, healthcare data. It's all nicely categorized. Some of it is free to use, so if you have a trial account, you could just go try it. Some of it is obviously licensed because firms want to monetize their data. But not just the marketplace. What you can do is you can directly share your data in a secure manner with other Snowflake customers. You could also have reader accounts, which means you can have access to your data with a customer who does not have a Snowflake account at all. They could just come and access your data in a secure manner. And then you could set up what we call a data exchange. Within your organization, different teams having governed access to one single copy of the data. So getting rid of all these data mart kind of constructs and just retaining that single copy, right? Obviously, we don't do this alone. There's an ever expanding ecosystem that we've got of partners. Locus is a big partner for us, but outside of that, technology partners, ISV partners, data science partners, this is a massive ecosystem with which we work, right? And that kind of completes our portfolio. And finally, I'll have you look at some of the key financials of the company. It's interesting to note that there's been a consistent 3-figure growth, triple-digit growth for Snowflake quarter on quarter. What's also interesting is that the net revenue retention rate for a SaaS company, we're growing at 169%. So these are customers that we have not just retained, but also grown significantly. I'll draw your attention to this piece, which talks about CSAT, right? That net promoter score of 71 is massive. Not too many other software companies have an NPS in that space. And that essentially says that these are companies that will potentially recommend Snowflake to their colleagues or their friends within the industry. And there's a 100% CSAT score that we've got. So all in all, I think it's a profitable engagement with Snowflake, if I could call it that. And I'm sure you've seen the benefit of engaging with Snowflake. So with that, I'll stop presenting. Thank you so much. And back to you, Khushbu.
Murad, fantastic. Thank you so much for walking us through. Murad, before we move on, may I just ask you again some of the things you touched upon, right? I've seen them in a live customer environment where we bring in data from somewhere. You have to make a copy of it, land in an S3 bucket. If you do something on it, you have to again make a copy, and God bless you if you need to reshare it with somebody again, right? So you're making multiple copies of the data. So again, very, very pertinent point. I want to tie back to the theme. What do you think, and what does Snowflake see about the data to decision journey? How critical that is? What's your point of view on that aspect for the organizations today?
Great question, Saurabh. And in fact, that is a driving point in most of our conversations with our customers, right? The primary reason why we exist and data exists is for customers to make decisions. Now, the question is, what are you doing today with that data? Are you able to really derive or open up that data to derive the value? Sometimes organizations do that, but like you said, and you showed it nicely on your slide, right? The amount of time that it takes to go through all the technology models of data engineering, data science, by the time you derive value out of that data, it's too late. So I think the question is more around how can we simplify all of this? And I like to use the term data ops, right? How do we simplify data ops so that data teams actually end up focusing on data and consumption of data rather than focusing on all these things that you said, right? Creating copies, struggling with syncing of that data, indexing, vacuuming. These are things of the past. This is what we've built into the platform so that data engineers, data analysts, data scientists can focus on their job and deliver value much faster. We call it time to value, right? How do you derive that time to value and shrink that window? I think that is exactly where companies like ours, Locus, Snowflake, we put together a solution and help a customer derive outcomes and value in real quick time. That's
awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Saurabh.
Over to you, Khushbu.
Great. These have been wonderful discussions. Thank you so much, Virad and Saurabh, for giving a great presentation for our viewers. I would now like to, start the fireside chat session. So I would like to invite Mr. Smitesh Shah, and over to you, Murad and Saurabh, for you guys to start the fireside session.
Thank you. So Smitesh, thanks again. Really warm welcome. I really appreciate that you've taken some time and joined us on this conversation. So everybody who's listening us, right? Again, Smitesh, apart from being a great partner for Locus, right? He's the Executive Vice President, Head of Business and Technology Transformation at Ambit Finvest. I think one of the key reasons we looked at Smitesh and wanted to hear his perspective is that he very keenly talks about tools and technologies and building solutions. And he's a very big proponent of, data-driven organizations, very passionately speaks about it. So I think one of the best panelists to hear from. So Smitesh, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. Smitesh, I'm going to tee this off. First, let's warm up. If you could talk to the audience listening today about the Ambit Finvest business, right? What are the challenges? What do you guys do? What do you guys, how do you enable the end user through your products and services?
Sure. Just to give you a background, Ambit Finvest is part of the larger Ambit Group. Ambit Group is basically into private banking institution and broking on the corporate side, whereas Ambit Finvest is the NBFC arm of Ambit Group. It's a NBFC, non-deposit taking NBFC. The prime focus of Ambit Finvest has been the retail business, which is the MSME, secured and unsecured loan, and used commercial vehicle, used car, and used tractor. These are the new products which we have just ventured into, but our primary focus has been to enable funding to the MSME sector through a secured and unsecured lending that allows India to grow and that allows the nation to grow and with the customers. So naturally, with pandemic setting in, a lot of challenges have come. We have been literally expanding. Our gears have shifted multiple times. We had a branch network of 15 when pandemic started. We are at 50 branch, so we have almost expanded to 2.5x times. Employee strength has almost double from 200 to 250 to almost 600. We continue to expand. We continue to partner with other fintech players and ensure that we are able to reach the masses and basically able to fund their requirements and ensure that there. So with all this into place, data plays a very key aspect for us, and the management and the board has been very forthcoming to use new technologies. During the pandemic, we moved our core platform from a private data center to the public AWS cloud. So that's how we really started our journey on the cloud. We had multiple systems. We are a use of Salesforce for our sales team. We have our core lending platform, and we also have our GL system. So we have a lot of other LOS systems which are there where we use state-of-art technologies to do automated scorecard for our unsecured types of loan. Now, with all these different systems, there was a need of consolidation. What better than having to put the seed for an enterprise data warehouse? That's how the journey started for looking at as an enterprise data warehouse. In my previous organization, we are already tied up with Locust and use the AWS stack to basically implement that. But as we moved into the new thing, we really didn't want to use the technologies again. I would use the new platform, but with Snowflake coming in, that really helped us, because we wanted to use the power of compute and not bothered about how the data is getting actioned. So again, the charge or pay per use is really the key for AWS. And the compute always becomes end of day after all the end of day happens. So what we have really done is we have used Snowflake, where we pay use on the query module the power of running the queries and getting the outcome, so that we can give the results to our management and the respective stakeholders by a particular time. So we use the power of Snowflake on the queries and dealing the storage from the query. So that's the reason where we have partnered on AWS with Snowflake as a technologies. This is what we have been, and that's a trend setting we have been doing and adopting technology to ensure that we use the data at the right time to basically give outcome to three points. One is how can we leverage customer data, how we can ensure that we have early warning system for collection, because that was the stress.
Sure.
The third would be branch profitability. Fourth would be productivity. If I look at this, and we are also using as we are implementing to put all the KPIs. We are not going to use any more reporting or a PPT. Automatically, it will be live dashboards. And even before we started using EDW in a way, we already had the BI tool, which was directly running on our core platform. So anyway, the data was coming, but now with multiple systems, we thought we will consolidate the data at one single place and ensure that we are able to do trend analysis and basically even cross sell or do pre-approved loan to the customers in pandemic. So that's what we are really looking at, the enterprise data warehouse on AWS with having the power of security on AWS and having the power of Snowflake for getting the data out.
I have a question for you, Smitesh. And first of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for being a Snowflake customer. And before I get to my question, I firmly believe that a customer story is always so much more powerful than a bunch of slides, right? So I really found that interesting in terms of what you're using the platform for and so on. But I want to step back a little bit and ask you, when you were setting up this warehouse, you wanted a modern platform. I'm sure you had the option of building out something yourself on AWS using discrete components, or going in for a ready to consume platform like Snowflake. And we know that you chose the latter. Could you talk us through your evaluation criteria? What went into that thinking to choose Snowflake?
So let me put this way, very simple. We are also tied up with Locus as a partner. For me, it's software as a service. It's application plus infrastructure. The first question I asked Locus was, do you have a partnership with Snowflake? So we had evaluated platform versus custom build. See, it all comes with the different scenarios. We thought that it's fast to go to market using public cloud. But yes, security was a very key aspect for us. We wanted to go fast to market. We didn't want to build custom solution because solution keeps on changing. As you rightly know, previously you have your traditional data center, then you have your private data center, now you have public data center. I always believe we should focus on what we are known for. Lending is the core business. If we have technologies to supplement it and get the results fast, but yes, we still have the control of the custom build which we have made. We use the platform to leverage the positiveness of it. But still, when we build our enterprise data warehouse, tomorrow if I want to plug in the system or bring it in-house, that flexibility is still kept with us. So we have kept that flexibility, but leveraging latest technologies, which has really helped us to basically get the results faster. That's how we had looked at it. So it was a build of like a custom solution with the power of availability in the market rather than building it from scratch. That's how we took a call to go with Locus Snowflake and build a custom data warehouse, the first layer, and then push this data into Snowflake and use the BI tool to get the outcome. Hope I am able to answer the question.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Saurabh, what do you?
Yeah, I think the other, and again, Smitesh, you're touching the absolute key points which bother most of the companies, right? Here is another one for you, and one of my favorite questions, and I put that to Murad also. What is your viewpoint as a business leader? What does it mean for you to shrink the data to decision, timeline? So, and again, the awesome part of this conversation is you've built it from scratch using the AWS toolset, and now you also using a tool like Snowflake, a ready product. So what does it mean for you as a business leader to shrink that time frame?
Yeah, so I'll put what are the key pillars for an NBFC? There are banks, there are NBFC. Why NBFCs are also surviving in parallel to banks? Because NBFCs cater to a large untapped market, and we are specifically into the MSME segment, catering to needs of different tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 customers. How can we shorten the time right from a login to dispersal? That's the key. Now, for that, data is the key, where we have to really look at what are the pain areas where we can do. Second, I would touch upon employee. If I'm getting a lead from the employee who is basically representing the customer, can I shorten the time and give the decision in a faster way? Putting all this is nothing but data is the key aspect. How can you leverage different data sets using external third-party integrations like bureaus and alternate set of data to fasten the decision, to better the decision? That is one part. Covering the risk. If I'm going to cover the risk, how is my branch profitability? How is my productivity of per employee? How are my KPIs of different departments? If I'm not able to have this data in different systems, I will never be able to do it. That's the power where I bring the data in the data warehouse, use the technologies which are available, and be able to do faster decisioning in a particular time frame. Now we are doing market research, and our plan is to expand from 50 branches right now to 100 branches by March to June next year. We are basically using the power of data to analytics. There we leverage the bureaus and see what is the future segment. Again, bringing the external data, bringing the internal data, time to market, and ensuring which branch is profitable in what period of time, and where is the lending under tap. That's where is the power of data, as rightly said, structured, unstructured, semi-structured data.
Awesome. If I may quickly squeeze in one more question, and Khushbu, please keep us honest on time.
Yes.
What do you recommend, Smitesh? So for the leaders listening, again, you've done this journey multiple times. What do you recommend for leaders? Where do they start, right? And one of the challenge I've seen with companies, they get too drowned and they start boiling the ocean. They make it a huge undertaking in itself, and then that itself sets you for failure. So where do they start? What's your recommendation?
So see, what we started, our core lending platform was the key. We had an in-house team who basically wrote 5 reports on top of that tool. Now there, the background was data was available, reports were available, we could see the analysis, but then we didn't had how to control the data, how to give access rights to the data. So we started small by seeing what are the problem statement, what we really want to see. We ran that project for almost 6 to 9 months. Then we had different systems which were under migration, like our core GL system was under migration, that got migrated. We're implementing Salesforce. Now, as more and more systems started coming, it was very difficult to consolidate data and bring it to Zen. So I would put this way: what is your problem statement? What are your key KPIs you want to measure? If it is single system, you can write a BI tool on top of it. You don't need Jassy tools. Start small, see what is your problem statement, attack that problem statement. Whatever you implement, get a buy-in that this is in the right direction. So it's like start, accelerate, recheck on what you are doing. And when you have so many multiple systems and you need the power to use the data in the right way to get decisioning, that's where I would say you start the journey of your data warehouse. As long as you're able to get the data on a single system, please continue to use the BI tool and write on top of it. There are a lot of fintech startups and small who can do it. Start small, look at it, see what is the power you are getting. And then as you expand your systems, you consolidate data and see what KPIs you want to really achieve with naturally return on investment, because that's an investment. It will come over time. And I would say leverage solutions which are available rather than build, unless you are a fintech player and you want to go in that direction. That's how I would say the journey we started in multiple companies, and that's how you should start.
Fantastic. Excellent. And again, those are some of the tips all of you who are listening from the trenches, right? They've built it, they've put their hands and gotten their hands dirty, learned lessons, and these are coming from those trenches. Thank you, Smitesh, for that. Khushbu, I would turn it over to you if we have any questions for Smitesh or Murad. If you have anything else,
No, I'm good. I just want to see if we have any questions from the audiences, and then yeah,
We do, in fact, yes. With the interest of time, we will just pick up a few and cover them, and the rest we shall take them offline. I can see one question, Murad, that's for you. So, does Snowflake has on-premise setup based model or a private cloud-based setup as against hyperscalers?
I can answer that. Yeah, Subrat. So the answer is no, because Snowflake was designed grounds up to be a cloud native service. It is SaaS, so it does not have an on-prem or a private cloud kind of presence. But yeah, we do have presence on all three clouds, so you could consume it off a cloud of your choice today. I hope that answers the question.
Awesome. I think does. There is another question.
Khushbu,
Yeah, sorry.
if I may, there was another question and I was not sure. I think I'd clicked on answer live and then
Yeah.
it disappeared. There was a question around supply chain
Analytics.
somebody had asked. So again, very wide question, but in my experience, a bunch of things which could be done. One of the customers I've personally worked with, they were in a situation where they will bring in their products. It will be housed at different warehouses. From there, it goes to different stores, right? So the biggest challenge was, how do we optimize on-hand inventory, right? And that's where we did that. The serverless data lake and the Snowflake platform helped build that solution for that. In about 4 months' time, we were able to bring the on-hand inventory down by about 45%. That was significant dollar saving for the company, right? As you can imagine. So that was one use case. But again, we can discuss at length. There can be a lot of micro use cases which could be built, and a value can be driven out of those. Hope that helps.
Awesome. I think we can take one more question. Snowflake supports the technology of AWS, Azure, and GCP. Raj, maybe you want to take this?
Yes. So we are hosted on those platforms, and yeah, obviously we support their technologies. That's right.
All right. Fair. I think I still have a few, but I think we should take it offline, considering the time that's ticking. So thank you so much to all the speakers, to all the participants who joined us today. And I think all the speakers have given wonderful insights. Thank you once again, Murad, Smitesh, Saurabh. And we shall be sharing the recording of this webinar to all the participants and the speakers. So you can look out for our email and it should be in inbox. And thank you once again. So stay tuned for our next session on this.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you, everyone. Hope you drew some value out of it. Thank you so much. Smitesh, again, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah.
Murad, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Khushbu. Bye-bye.
Thank you.